They went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. If you got on a second ago and there was a little glitch in the matrix, we don't know what happened. Anyways, I see in the chat, Tip Time was already here. Good Merry Christmas Eve to you back. Thank you very much. I can't believe it's Christmas Eve.
I know.
I remember a year ago on Christmas Eve, it was like every other day. There was nothing special about it in prison. So yesterday I had I don't know if I want to call it a disturbing conversation, but I had one of those conversations with my oldest daughter who came home for Christmas, who's been gone, right? She moved out while I was in prison. And she kind of started the question out. So, Dad, are you still a sovereign citizen?
Boy.
I was like, oh, you've been reading the news. I was like, no, I'm not a sovereign citizen. I never was. It's funny because of all the people involved in January 6th, there were a smattering of people who actually claimed to be sovereign citizens. And I got the label. They actually said the words. Anyways, all very funny. But it reminded me that, again, this theme that I've said many, many times, you can't vote your way out of an indoctrinated society. During the conversation, I went to share a video of J.D. Vance, and my daughter's like, well, I can't trust him. And I was like, I understand not trusting a politician, but that's not, like, I can't trust him, because this was in the context of her defending CPS. When I say CPS to you, Child Protective Services, wrong, you get a warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart, like,
no.
Oh, they're taking care of all the kids that's parents are derelict. That's not the feeling we get.
I mean, that's what they're doing, and they're doing the best they can, but it's dicey.
It's dicey. I was like, anyway, so we had a discussion about all the different ways that, you could accomplish CPS's mission without using CPS. And, I was like, for example, if you're in a local area and there's a strong church, community church, that church could have an outreach program, right? How much better would it be if I got in trouble and my kids needed some care, if the local sheriff reached out to our local bishop and said, Is there anybody in the universe of people that are already familiar with this family that can take care of them? Well, first you
start with family.
Yeah. And anyways, she was like, well, they're supposed to do that. I'm like, supposed to do that. They're also not supposed to take parents away from kids that, are loved. So anyways, this is Gad Sad. He's a university professor. Oftentimes he's, quoted as one of these intellectual, right? And he's talking about, why do all these bad ideas come out of universities?
How come almost every single time bad ideas come from universities?
So Orwell answered it one way. It takes intellectuals to come up with some of the dumbest ideas.
Yes.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that. Now, why is that? The academic who literally lives in the ivory tower is fully decoupled from the autocorrective mechanism of reality, right? So for example, I am housed in a business school. In the business school, there is less parasitic ideas, because if you build an economic model to predict the economy that's based on postmodernism, reality will tell you suck. Engineering schools also have less parasitic ideas, because if you build a bridge using postmodernist indigenous physics, then the bridge will collapse. So
postmodernist indigenous physics? That's where you get the incense out and you get all the steel and you're like, if we put enough sage on it, it'll hold.
I think that like water dowsing falls in that category sometimes.
What does?
Water dowsing.
Water dowsing? Yeah. What's water dowsing? Explain.
That's where you grab the sticks and you walk around.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Some disciplines have an inoculation against these parasitic ideas, but in other disciplines, in the humanities and some of the social sciences, I could sit on top of my pulpit, pontificate about nonsense. There isn't an autocorrective mechanism called reality, and that's why I become the promulgator of nonsense.
Yeah, and that's kind of reminds me of Kamala Harris. I could say things. Now, I saw this clip and I just think it's an absolutely wonderful clip. And I want people to internalize how serious of a problem we have. So this is Mark Mitchell. This is from Rasmus's reports. He says, in 10 years, the average boomer will be 80. We've only seen a whisper of the fourth turning so far. So what this is the blue line here is the Generation Z, right? This is younger generation, the generation after the millennials, and this is the baby boomers. And as you can see right here, there's a pretty close correlation, right? You get a couple of the Gen Z to come over and vote for MAGA. You know, it's like you can see the comparison, but this is going down rapidly. And this obvious line is going to stay strong for another 40 years or so, 50 years. If this line is indoctrinated, if this line right here didn't get civics class, believes we live in a democracy, does not understand representative politics and constitution.
This is a really good graph. I'm seeing the problem.
Thinks that we live on stolen land.
You should be walking your cursor along the red line as you say the civics are disappearing.
That's just it. Boomers got the lesson, right? Boomers lived through Reagan. Boomers lived through Carter. They've kind of seen a little up and down. They haven't seen war. They've paid for war. I haven't seen war. Okay? Right. Very few in this generation saw war. But this right here, this is going to be the prevailing voting bloc in the future. So when you see people like AOC and you see kind of the younger crowd and they're playing towards the Bernie Sanders policies, because guess what? These people own homes. These people never will. Had that conversation last night too. It was like, I don't know how at what point when we start earning money and house values, like, where's the spot where we make enough to buy a house? And I'm like, there's not one. There's not a spot where it intersects unless you leave the herd, right? You have to get out of the bell curve to survive right now. And you know, for someone like me, who's always been naturally entrepreneurial, opportunistic, I had to jump out of the bell curve of my generation to get to where I'm at, right? I had to be like super peasant owning construction companies, and you know what I mean? Like, but the avenue that I would have had to just, hey, take your college degree and go work for Gallup and you'll make 60, 70 grand a year. You'll buy I'd still be working for Gallup as a political scientist doing polling, making 60 or 70 grand a year somewhere where the median home price is 650 grand. You know what I'm saying? So this is the result of this indoctrination. So this is the interviewer interviewing these two people here. And the discussion here is about genetic differences. Okay. Bad ideas, not rooted in reality or science. We're going to listen to this discussion. Now, some of you might want to blow your brains out. Please don't. It's important to internalize this. You can't vote your way out of indoctrination, right? When people are fixated on non-true ideas and are not open to correction or to new information and reinform their opinions, you end up with this.
You've said things like Black women are biologically different than white women.
Yes, they have different fertility windows. They have a higher rate of fertility complications. 50%.
There's no scientific evidence to prove that a Black woman and a white woman are genetically different, right? This is like,
what are you talking about?
No.
Like literally, there are genes that code for their skin color. There are genes that,
again, this is like government data. This is right? This is the National Institute of Health. This is the American Medical Association. Like there is no scientific evidence to prove that.
And that's a big problem, right? Because
there's no scientific
and that's why I asked,
like IQ differences. Black people are genetically different from other populations.
And I'll say that again. There is no scientific evidence to prove that, right? And as people
I'm stating, do you want to ask an AI if there's scientific evidence to prove that?
No, I want to ask.
Because what you're stating is just factually incorrect. Humans are genetically diverse. It's not a bad thing that humans are genetically diverse.
I'm not saying it's a bad or a good thing. I'm saying there is no scientific evidence.
And I'm saying that is a factually.
And he's saying that there is scientific
evidence. There is scientific evidence. There is overwhelming scientific evidence.
Based on
and the basics. No. This is like saying the sky is not blue. Like, it is genes that code their skin color, right? Those genes are obviously different in them than they are in us. How is that not science? That's just like a basic fact. The genes that code their skin color, their level of melanin production, are different from my genes that code melanin production.
And that's precisely why I was asking this question, because I think for some people that do believe, like you, that people are genetically different, that has historically been used to promote racial hierarchies, right? And that's why I'm asking you. Because
I like the way he looks around like, Am I crazy?
They're a different color. That's a gene expression.
That's science.
Clearly different. This is now. It seems kind of like, well, maybe they're talking past each other. They're not. Yuval Navari in the book *Sapiens* talks about this genetic problem because we spent the second the 40s, 50s, and 60s telling people that genes don't matter. That everybody's equal, that, look past the color of your skin, look past any genetic differences. And then one day we unlocked the gene code and we found out, there are significant differences. Like, for example, if you're white or Middle Eastern, you have somewhere between 2 and 4% Neanderthal DNA, which is probably why you express white, right? If you're Asian, you have up to 7% Denisovian DNA, which is why they have a certain appearance and a certain mental capacity for things like mathematics and things like that. If you're black, you're the only pure Homo sapiens left, right? They're pure human. So we're all something else, and they're the pure humans. Oh. This expresses itself in other manners. It expresses itself in IQ. This could be from centuries of Darwinian survival of the fittest. If you're going to be in a northern hemisphere where it's cold, you better learn how to plan for the winter.
Well, that could explain why Jesus is probably black.
Could be. Yeah. Who knows? Who cares? Right? The idea here isn't that we don't have differences. It's that as far as subjective things go, we shouldn't be different, right? When we're talking about housing, freedom of opportunity, there's a bell curve. Just because black people and Asian people and white people and Middle Eastern, all fit in some bell curve for their society, doesn't mean there's not outliers. Okay,
oh, yeah.
So you take everybody on merit, but to sit and be like, hey, there's no scientific difference. Yuval Navari says this is the greatest hot potato science has ever dealt with. Because, again, what she points out is, well, people have used that to promote policies, over the genetics. Yes, Hitler did that. No bueno. Pol Pot did something. North Korea does it. If your ancestors were a certain way, that's bad. Okay. But to deny the differences, when you deny truth, it comes back with a club, right? And that's the thing. We have to be in alignment with what's true. And the search for truth has become more and more difficult. I often say on the podcast, right? Like, we could have a real discussion about tax rates and things like that, but we can both agree that fraud is fraud, right? Can we just eliminate that from our calculations? That there's no fraud that is acceptable?
That's a good baseline.
Yeah, that's a good baseline. So when we're having a discussion about, for example, CPS, if there's examples of corrupt CPS workers or things like that, I'm like, can we agree that that's wrong? And we need to eliminate that. And if eliminating that means we have to change the way services are offered, right? One of the other things that got brought up.
That's a great basic way to say it.
One of the other things that got brought up was suicide with this. Again, my daughter is sweet as a button. There's no issue here. She's totally on board. We were having a discussion, right? And she was making mention of, well, a lot of CPS workers commit suicide. And so, they're underpaid and that's why they commit suicide. Listen, honey, nobody commits suicide because they're underpaid. They quit. They move on, right? A mentally healthy person just quits and moves on. And I said, I've talked to people who have gone on to commit suicide that were like police officers. I've talked to people who are in these stress positions that commit suicide and things like that. And I've also read a couple studies and just observationally, the reason they commit suicide has nothing to do with being overworked. Lots of people are overworked. Right? Go ask any Christian minister. He'll tell you he's overworked. Right? Everybody's got problems and they come to me. The problem is cognitive dissonance. When your values don't align with your actions. When a cop commits suicide, it's usually because something's happening on the clock, something they did, something they observed, and all of a sudden it doesn't align with their real beliefs.
And they can no longer deal.
Talk to a soldier who signs up for the military to protect free speech, protect the American way of life, protect democracy, blah, blah, blah. And then he finds himself in a shootout killing teenagers over a poppy field overseas in a place where they don't want democracy.
And he has some questions, but because he's in the military, he's not allowed to have questions.
He's not allowed to have questions. Exactly. That cognitive dissonance is often what gives rise to those suicidal thoughts because there's no help. You know, this is the thing. If there's no good cops, then they must all by default be bad cops. If cops allow their own side to commit crimes, that creates a cognitive dissonance. Why am I arresting the 50-year-old grandma for some ticky-tacky thing when I've got XYZ officer over here that's groping women on the side of the road and getting away with it? These are just examples. There's no specifics there, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The cognitive dissonance is what leads people to that suicide. And I would venture to guess it's a large percentage. Now, there's other factors, health stuff, but it's not just because you're overworked. Right? Otherwise, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what it is. It's lack of purpose, lack of meaning. There's a lot of things that go into that. All right, let's jump into the economy here, but let's check in. Brazier, it's hard to talk out of someone's paradigm. That is very true, right? And that's one of the objectives of this show, The Peasant's Perspective, is I just want to see it from the ground level. I want to see how it touches us. I want to leave the ethereal hypotheticals and go, well, how does it work? Right. And we are at a current point in our history where there's a lot of broken things. So we can look at them and say, that's broken, that's broken, that's broken. That doesn't mean we can't figure out solutions.
Well, and fraud is a big part of it, like you brought up. And I thought that was a great way to say it. You know, it'd be just great if we could rely on the assumption that fraud is not in the system. And then if we do find a little bit here or there, we could cut it out.
We can cut it out. What's happening now, and we're going to
so we can get back to the baseline assumption.
Yeah, we have to agree on where the North Star is.
Right.
Our compass has to point in the same direction.
Right.
We can decide to take the south slope or to the north slope, but the objective is supposed to be the same.
Right. And until that fraud is cut out, however little it is, you know, we can't have real policy discussions.
Exactly. And if we're not talking about the correct thing, for example, you know, this has been commented many times with Republicans. Republicans opposed illegal immigration because it was illegal. Right? Not because they didn't approve of demographic shifting.
Right.
Because they didn't approve of cheap labor.
Right.
They did. It was just, well, we're just.
And it seems like the Democrats can't remember that every time it's brought up, it's like, well, how about let's fix it so we can make it better?
We can bring in legals, right? That's the point. Like, I'm not saying I want to go pick almonds and strawberries.
No.
There is a division of labor. There's other people that are willing to do that. I'm not going to just be like, we need to bring immigrants in to do it. No. There's somebody out there that's willing to do it. If they're not in this country and they want to be here, let's let them come here legally. But let's not open the gates and let 20 million people in, because for every almond picker you get 3 MS-13 gang members. All right, so the economy, even CNN had to admit those GDP numbers were something else.
A new report shows the U.S. economy was much stronger than expected in the third quarter. GDP grew at the fastest rate in 2 years.
You have to keep in mind the whole fastest rate in 2 years. Remember, 2 years ago, Biden was dumping green new money into the system. So that pumps the economy. The other thing was we were still in COVID recovery mode. So we lost all these jobs. So anytime you say the best since 2023 or since 2022 or some of these numbers like, you know, recovery, remember, we had some
wild dips.
Some of these numbers, if you go back before 2022, 2023, you're going back like very far. We're talking decades back to see some of these numbers.
They're also seeing some prices ease at the grocery store. The cost of eggs, milk, chicken, and tomatoes are all down, as you see here on the screen. A new report.
Okay, so coffee's up. On that whole list, the only thing that's up is coffee.
Report shows the U.S. economy was much stronger than expected in the third quarter. GDP grew.
Oh, we already watched that. It was a 15-second clip. Okay, so Howard Lutnick said this too, and this is important to understand because for us, it's easy to be like, yep, we had a great, strong economy, but you have to compare it to the other countries in the world. Listen to Howard Lutnick and listen to these third quarter growth numbers of our biggest economic competitors.
So just think, the whole world out there in the third quarter, the United Kingdom grew 0.1, the European Union grew 0.4, and Japan fell 0.6%, fell 0.6%. Donald Trump's economy grew, the United States of America, the biggest economy in the world, 4.3%. What that means is that Americans overall, all of us are going to earn 4.3% more money. We're making a raise. It's a simple way to do it. We've got more jobs, lower energy costs, and lower interest rates coming. This is the golden age coming. This is the golden age coming. 4.3% this quarter means Americans on average are making more money in their pocketbooks. That makes for a great Christmas.
It is almost impossible to feel this because under Joe Biden, prices went up 30 to 35% across the board. And there's a lead lag in this. It takes time for everybody to feel that. And they started to feel it right at the end of Biden's term and now into Trump's term. Those prices, for the most part, aren't coming down. Right? You're not going to buy a car.
I was going to say, this is going to feel more like a coupon.
Yeah, but you're not going to. You're not going to buy a car that was last year $30,000 and this year, it's only $22,000.
No,
it's not going to happen.
No,
they have to hold that price floor. Otherwise they devalue the inventory they just let off the shelf. Things that are consumables, eggs, food, those can kind of go up and down because there's no longevity. But if like car prices go down, you just destroyed everybody who bought a car last year, right? Which then puts into the mindset of people, I don't want to buy.
I think that's the difference between durable goods. I think that's the term they use is durable
goods. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is important. The only way to rebalance things is for wages to grow up. I used to say as a kid, because I lived in Japan, and you'd go buy a pack of bubble gum and it was like 25,000 yen. It was like, wow, these are expensive.
These are big numbers.
Turns out it was only 10 cents.
Right.
We will get there at some point. I mean, we're already, just yesterday I was walking around the store and I'm like, I can't pay $4 for that. I can't pay that. This should be a 50-cent item, like stick of beef jerky for $4.99. Are you kidding me? It's someone else.
So one of these days you're going to go to the checkout and they're going to go, that'll be $225,000.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, all I got was a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah.
So on the Charlie Kirk show, the fill-ins there, I don't even know who all these people are. I recognize all of them. I don't know their names, but they address this issue of GDP growth and how significant this is in dealing with our debt.
10. How good was this news that broke this morning? 4.3 growth Q3 for GDP.
It's a really good number. It's a solid number. I'd put it at 8 or a 9. Trump wants 5% growth. We're not quite there yet, although we could get there. Incidentally, once you get above 3.5% economic growth, then the economy grows faster than the debt grows. And so the burden, because I know everyone listening to the show is concerned about our, massive debt. And one way of lowering that debt is to grow our way out of it. So, look, I'm super bullish on this U.S. economy. It's been a really good 2025. I don't care what the polls are showing, that all of the indicators show a very strong growth year. And I think we're going to see a speed up in 2026 because a lot of people will come up to me on the street and say, hey, Steve Moore, I know you helped write that big, beautiful bill. Why aren't I seeing it? And I tell people, well, because it hasn't taken effect yet for tens of millions of Americans. On January 1st, when they get their first paycheck for the month of January, they're going to start to see less money withheld from their paycheck, which is exactly what Americans want to see.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's play some of the reactions from the news media here. 189.
Third quarter numbers, we're looking for 3.3.
Watch these yesterday. That's really good. We're growing out of the debt. Doug Wyatt says, Merry Christmas, peasants. Enjoy your goose.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
A Christmas goose. Doug, do you actually eat a goose for Christmas?
No.
Does anybody eat goose anymore? Is that even a thing outside of like...
That just makes me think of that movie where it's still smiling at us.
Is that the Christmas Story?
Yes.
Oh, rah, 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 rah.
Yeah.
They say there are genetic differences. I watched that show so many times as a kid.
It's so good.
Okay, so Canada, our 51st state, our friendly neighbor to the north. So everybody got their third quarter numbers yesterday. And let's listen to Canada.
A new snapshot of the Canadian economy released today reveals it remains brittle in the face of trade tensions and tariffs. Statistics Canada says GDP numbers.
Look, Canadian economy shrank by 0.3%.
For October show the economy shrank by 0.3%. It's the biggest decline in almost 3 years. The manufacturing sector decreased by 1.5%, while wood manufacturing dropped over 7%. In total, 11 out of 20 industries experienced a decline. Stay with us. You're watching.
Well,
please stay with Canada.
I guess Trudeau's timed that right.
Yeah. I'm out. Gravy chain's gone. I'm out. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever been on the highway and like someone's driving 5 miles faster than you? And eventually you can't see them anymore. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. We're going 4 miles faster than our competition here. And eventually we're going to be over the horizon. You keep that up long enough because of the tariffs, because of the USMCA and different things like that, our economies are not as connected as they were. Right. And what we found under Joe Biden was he was violating the USMCA. He was allowing Canada to still grift off of our economy. Howard Lutnick. This isn't Howard Lutnick. This is one of the guys up in Alberta, because this next year they vote on a referendum to become an independent country. Alberta wants to succeed from Canada. And polling is showing that they're likely to succeed. In fact, it's so likely to succeed that the U.S. State Department is working with them to get recognition.
So one of the things that could well happen after the referendum is the United States will recognize Alberta as an independent country. And in fact, there have been ongoing meetings between the Alberta Prosperity Project representatives and the State Department in the U.S., and as recently as a few weeks ago, where they continue to dialogue on the situation in Alberta. And it's clear that the U.S. government is prepared to recognize Alberta independence. And if it occurs in a democratic referendum vote, it recognizes, the U.S. has a history of recognizing that free people have the ability to choose their form of government. And so this is really significant because it's Alberta's largest trading partner. They're our closest geographic trading partner. And so it's very exciting to have us going into 2026 with the United States and its growing economy showing a willingness to recognize Alberta.
How cool would that be?
Wow.
Now, Alberta is the strong economic part of Canada. I'm not really sure what Saskatchewan produces other than wheat.
I don't know.
Toronto, mostly just, big city rot. Some movies get shot there. British Columbia. I have a friend who just hopped up over into Vancouver last week, and he was like, Chinese propaganda everywhere. It's China, 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 everywhere he looked. He said he was like disturbed by it. It was so much. I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Howard Lutnick talks about Canada.
So Mark Carney, whom I've met as central banker, are you optimistic? Can we make a deal with Canada?
I think it's really complex. I think this is really complex because they have been basically feeding off of us for decades upon decades upon decades. Right? They have their socialist regime, and it's basically feeding off of America. I mean, the president calls that out all the time. Why do we make cars in Canada? Why do we do our films in Canada? Come on. So I think the president's going to have, I think it's going to be a fascinating meeting. I'm glad I'm going to be there listening, but it's going to be a fascinating meeting tomorrow. I just don't see how it works out so perfectly.
But you're not going to bust up USMCA. That deadline is next year for the final review.
Correct. So next year is coming. So a lot of things.
So if it's USMCA compliant, you're okay.
I think for now it's okay, but I think what you should expect to see is a real revisiting of USMCA in a year, because Donald Trump.
So USMCA is what replaced NAFTA, and it's up for review next year. So now that Trump's in, he's completely changed the game with tariffs and everything. They might do away or renegotiate the USMCA completely. They might go, Canada, we're going to treat you like we treat Netherlands, since, you're useless. But we're going to recognize Alberta as a country, and who knows, we might even offer them statehood. John Atakis says, as far in reference to Doug Wyatt's eating goose on Christmas, he says, better than fish. And he goes, I know a family that eats fish on Christmas. He's referring to my family. My wife has a family tradition of having a fish breakfast on Christmas. So do you want to know the story?
Yes, I do. What the heck is going on? What kind of fish are we talking about?
Her grandfather, her grandfather grew up in Arco, Idaho area. Okay. And when they grew up, my grandmother remembers when electricity came to the valley. So it's like not even that long ago.
Well, that was like in the 80s.
A little bit before, just slightly. So anyways, as a child, they would go out to Lost River and they would fish. And that was just something they loved to do. They'd come back with some trout. And so they just loved having a little fish fry and fish bake from fish that they caught. It was like a big thing. Well, The story, when I got, engaged and came to the first fish breakfast on Christmas morning, and they had all these fried fish, and they're like, well, they were so poor that they went fishing and they gave fish to each other for Christmas, and that started this tradition of fishing. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Well, a couple years later, I got a hold of grandpa's autobiography where he wrote about it, and he writes about fish breakfast, Christmas breakfast, and he just goes, oh, we just liked fish. And he tells the story, we just went catching fish and we liked doing it. They never did it as kids, Christmas breakfast. It was something he started as an adult because it was reminiscent for him of catching rainbow trout in the creek, right? So I read this to my mother-in-law about her dad, and I was like, so no fish breakfast? And she was like, it was like this family tale.
You broke them.
Yeah, I broke the family, They still do fish breakfast. It's a great tradition, but yes, I married into a family that does fish breakfast. It's just breakfast, mostly sausage. You get like a piece of trout for fun. But yeah, it is a little bit different. Okay, so the other thing too going on here is the Greenland. So here let's hear from Jeff Landry. He's the former governor of Louisiana, who is heading up to be the special envoy of Greenland. Now, I said yesterday it was going to be Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is involved. He's not the special envoy. Apparently, there was actually misreporting. The news actually reported it was going to be him, but it was Jeff Landry. So he talks about that.
Well, the one thing I can tell you, Griff, is everyone in Louisiana now wants to go to Greenland for summer. It gets real hot in Louisiana, and everywhere I go in Louisiana now, the question I'm asked is, can you take me to Greenland with you, Governor? When you go, please let me know. I want to go. It really is. And you know what's amazing is over a year ago, no one was talking about Greenland. Okay. The whole time, Russian subs would circle Greenland. The whole time, the Chinese would pluck rare earths out of the Western Hemisphere. Then all of a sudden, we have the election of President Donald Trump. He comes in and says, you know what? The Monroe Doctrine is a real thing. We need to protect America's interests in those countries and territories in the Western Hemisphere. And again, Europe's just ignoring Greenland at the time. I mean, they don't even have first-class status at the UAE. This is an opportunity for Greenland to be invited.
So if you see this map here, I saw a map that showed the northern, the Earth is flat, right, Carlito? So anywhere you look at the flat, the horizon's always flat. And it was a view of the globe from the north, right? So Russia and Canada are not very far apart. And Greenland, I always look at Greenland over here northeast. It's not. It's like if you rotate this map, Greenland is the buffer between Russia and Canada. Like Russia's right. I'm pointing at the screen. Russia is right here.
Yeah.
Okay. So Greenland, like the way we would perceive this is Greenland is you tilt it on its axis, like bring this out here, drag that back.
You just need to look at a different map.
Yeah. Anyways, let's continue to listen here.
It's an economic table with the United States, the strongest, most advanced economy in the world. And we care. We care about them. We're the fastest security route to give them the security and the protection. It's about an hour away from the United States, where it's 3 to 4 hours from the European continent. I think there's a great opportunity here.
So I guess my main question to you is, what argument will you make to the Danes, who seem to be totally opposed to letting the U.S. come into a territory that they've had autonomous control of going back hundreds of years? What was the case that you'll make to them?
Well, I think our discussion should be with the actual people in Greenland, the Greenlanders. What are they looking for? What opportunities have they not gotten? Why haven't they gotten the protection that they actually deserve? Look, the United States has always been a welcoming party. We don't go in there trying to conquer anybody, trying to, take over anybody's country. We say, listen, we represent liberty. We represent economic strength. We represent protection. Look, no one knows that better than Louisiana. My family has been in Louisiana for over 300 years. We've lived under more flags than anyone living in the continental United States over the history of America. We ended up settling under the United States of America's flag. And for that, Louisiana has been so much better. The country has been so much better. But again, that's a discussion for us to have with the Greenland.
It's true.
Well, one thing I can tell you guys, everyone in
Louisiana's changed hands a couple times.
How old is this clip? Because he was talking about it being so hot. And what was
it's always hot in Louisiana, Ron.
Even this time of the year?
Yeah, it's hot all year, man. It's like 70, 80 degrees down there right now.
Really?
It's swampy. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so look at this here. So this is a view of the globe from the northern hemisphere. So I always think of Greenland being like out here, right? When we like that previous map, but it's not. I mean, it's literally like an island up here. It is the buffer to the Arctic. So when Trump says, they're sending their submarines, this is Russia. They're coming down like this, right? It is a big deal. Like,
yep.
So Greenland is clearly very strategic, and we just don't view the globe the right way. Carlito is out there being like, it's not a globe. Okay, let's go, Ron. What do we got for us?
Oh, I got a little remember how we were talking about coffee was up? I was like, it's a perfect opportunity to sell some coffee. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does.
The problem with coffee is I go through it so fast. I don't have time to order because I need coffee right now. So Carlite says it's definitely not a curved spinning ball of water hurling aimlessly through space. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, well, I can't say it's not, Carlito. That's the thing. I can't say it's not. But we can both agree that Greenland is the ice wall. Can we agree with that? That we need we need to protect the ice wall, because beyond the ice wall, for you Game of Thrones fans, are the White Raiders.
Oh, I thought it was
otherwise known as the Russians. Okay, so what are the other huge concerns we have to have as Americans? These are things that are not going away quickly or quietly into the night. We have to watch our indoctrination of the younger generation and ourselves too, frankly, right? We get indoctrinated through media sources, but our younger generation is doing it long form through college professors in their ivory towers. It's a big deal. It's not a small deal. You cannot outvote an indoctrinated society. Can't do it, right? So the other thing we have to consider is the infiltration of Islam. I have no problem fundamentally with different religions. I have no problem with Islam. Obviously, any religion can produce extremists that can cause amazing amounts of damage to a culture, civilization, or even your local skyscraper. Okay. Big deal. Extremism of all forms, where you take that absolute, my God says to kill you. I love Pat Patton, who I don't love very much for many reasons, but he does have a really funny comedy bit about the desert wars. Have you heard this?
No.
He's basically, he makes this comedy bit where there's this imaginary society and they all believe they're going to get cake in heaven. And then someone's like, I don't like cake. I want cookies. So he starts his own cookie cult. And then next thing you know, they're having wars over, what kind of dessert that you're going to get in heaven. And, we don't get cake in heaven, we get baklava. And it's like it starts these whole wars. Anytime that your religion encourages you to kill someone in cold blood, you've gone too far.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's where you've lost me.
Can we agree fraud is fraud and murder of the innocent is murder of the innocent?
Yes.
Can we agree? Okay. So here we go. This is talking about the history of Islam. We know what happens when Islam shows up.
So they say that by 2030, there will be a majority Muslim population in Europe, and they'll just flat out vote in Sharia law. And it won't just be no-go zones where they take over entire neighborhoods in Paris or around Belgium and London. No, they'll take over entire cities. And people forget, Egypt was completely Christian for 6 centuries. It's not anymore. All of North Africa was completely Christian for 6 centuries. It's not anymore. All in Turkey, all 7 churches mentioned in the book of Revelation were all in Turkey. And they were all taken over by the Muslim Turks. Constantinople was the largest Christian city in the world, and the largest Christian church in the world for hundreds of years was the Hagia Sophia, and it got turned into a mosque. And And so they want to do the same thing with the Vatican. And recently they allowed Muslim prayers in the Vatican. So we see that's headed in that direction.
Wow.
And the tremendous number of burning of churches in Europe.
And if you talk about this,
yeah, if you talk about this, you get ostracized and called a racist and a xenophobe and an Islamophobe. Well, the problem is it's actually happening. Like, we know what's going on up in Minnesota with the Somalis, who's, whatever flavor, they're Sunni Muslims, but we know what's going on up there, and we can blame it on just Somali, third world hellhole. Well, there's Muslims coming from much more educated, sophisticated countries. There are, right? Well, this is Paterson, New Jersey, and they just had their Ramadan Hilal lighting to mark the lighting of Hilal, and they've got the mayor of Paterson.
Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak. Paterson is proud to have the largest Muslim population in the state of New Jersey. And we are a better city because Muslims call Paterson home. And as you can see here in South Paterson on Palestine Way, we are proud to light the Hilal, something that has inspired other cities. As a matter of fact, over 50 cities now in this state light the Hilal, and I'd like to think 60. I stand to be corrected. Over 60 other municipalities in the state of New Jersey light a fanus or halal, and I'd like to think that Paterson has inspired all of these cities and towns. Yalla, Zeku, come on. But I want to brag about Paterson first. Paterson.
By the way, this isn't Dearborn, Michigan. This isn't Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is Paterson, New Jersey. Just add it to the list of cities that are voting in Sharia law.
Embraces and appreciates Islam. So much so that we are one of the few cities in the country where children are afforded a day off for both Eid holidays so they can celebrate with their families. Paterson is one of the few cities where children in schools can have halal food in their cafeterias. The children should be clapping for that one.
Yeah. Should they?
Day off and halal food? Come on, guys. Get with the program.
I want to go back to school. Really? I mean, we've had kosher meals forever, and I've never clapped and been like, we have kosher. No, but they're, what?
No, they want day off, right? They want to, anyway. Also, the Adhan, the call to prayer, thanks to the city council and the administration, can be heard in the city of Paterson when it is time to pray. And I also would like to state that since taking office, we opened up the doors at City Hall for the first time in Paterson's history to have a community iftar to break fast in Paterson. This year, the sheriff will join us. That will be on Thursday, March 13th at 6 p.m. And also, Paterson is probably one of the few municipalities where you have not one, not two, but three Muslim city council members as a part of our governing body.
And there's only 5. And that goes on for another 15 minutes bragging about that. This is...
How is this happening in America? I didn't envision this thing being a thing for America.
Yeah, it wasn't on your bingo card?
No.
Well, this is what happens, bro. This is what happens when you stop praying to the Christian God in school and you just don't pray at all. Pretty soon, the more dominant, aggressive religion comes in and goes, well, we want prayer 5 times a day. And it must be heard audibly in the city. Do you see what I'm saying?
How is it that we don't want prayer at all, but we're going to have 5 of them
Which,
now?
By the way, just so everybody understands, I just saw the statistic. It's like 95% of Muslims in this country immigrated here post 9/11.
Whoa.
They're taking over. They're invading. 9/11 was just the opening shot. And we all went over there and defended poppy seed fields and overthrew a sectarian government because we wanted their oil and gold, Saddam Hussein. Right. And so what are they doing? Well, they're taking over Paterson, New Jersey. They're taking over Dearborn. They're taking over Houston and all these other hot spots. They're definitely in the prison system. I can tell you right now, be very, very afraid of Prislon, right? And what's coming out of the prison system.
I shouldn't say that. Okay, I just picked up my phone and I got an X post that says USA News, Muslims gathered together in town square to tear down a Christmas tree.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What the frick?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was going on yesterday. I guess I should have included it in the show today.
Yeah.
It's open and hostile to a Christian way of life and to a sectarian way of life, right? When you really get in and study a little bit of Islam and how that whole system works.
I don't know how much more I need to know. I think I'm at the point already. I think I have enough information to form an opinion, and I don't think I want you into my country.
So what do you do? So
I don't know.
Policy time.
Okay.
Policy time.
Okay.
All right.
Can we have policy discussion? Have we got to the spot where we don't have fraud?
Well, forget that because,
I know. I'm just a joke.
Okay. So policy time. Hey, we don't want prayer 5 times a day. What are you, a religious bigot? You don't support other religions? Well, I'd like to stop immigration from these countries that don't have our values. What are you, a freaking xenophobe? Are you Islamophobic? You don't believe in the religion of peace, that they can be peaceful people? You think they're all terrorists? Okay, what other arguments would you do? Hey, I don't know if we should be voting them into our councils. Well, this is a democracy, right? I mean, if there's enough people there to vote for them and they've got good ideas, why wouldn't we put them in?
Right.
Well, I don't know if we should pass Sharia law. Well, I don't know if we should use the U.S. Constitution. Why don't we just vote on it? They weaponize your virtue and your Christian nice against them, right? When we're the majority, it's really easy to let in a few minorities. But when you start feeling the heat and the pressure, and you've got Patterson, New Jersey, and other cities where they're doing the prayer call 5 times a day, you're like, I thought we separated church and state. Why are the city council speakers blasting out call for prayer? We've lost the plot, and we completely misunderstand our enemy. Taken over without firing a single shot. Osama bin Laden was brilliant. He just opened the door. Hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to attack them. They'll come over here, and then they'll feel bad about it, and they'll start taking the refugees. And then not only that will they take refugees, but they'll pay for it.
Because they don't want to offend that population. And the early numbers that I'm getting in on the Somalis in Minnesota is 75% of the Somalis in Minnesota are on full government assistance. That's full welfare. The whole reason that the Democrats left the border open during the Biden administration was to allow people to come in and what they said would provide jobs, because there's a shortage of workers. And I agree there's a shortage of workers, but you got a massive population in that one state, and the overwhelming majority of that population is on Medicaid and then and other types of government programs. Even when Democrats say there are no illegals on Medicaid, I think that's going to be proven to be false.
Look in Minnesota, right?
75% of the Somali population coming over is on Medicaid. I have a video I played a while ago about a Muslim being like, we make money. We lie on the applications. We're taking your money. We know what we're doing. You're paying for us to be here. And we're going to ride this gravy train until we vote out the white people, vote out the Christians. And then we're just going to take your houses. We're going to take it for free like we have everywhere else. There's a legitimate Muslim just going off about this in their little synagogue where it's safe for them to talk that way. Right. But yet we in our churches are like, don't talk politics over the pulpit. Johnson Amendment.
Yeah.
Right. Don't push Christianity on anybody, even though we're supposed to preach the gospel to all the world. Right. No. But we'll let them in. And in the name, look, we're so not racist. We voted for a black president. Look, we're so not religiously oriented. We vote for Muslims just because they're Muslims. What's this Mandami thing in New York? Break that down for me for a minute. Help me understand what's going on there.
I can't.
I didn't play this clip because it was a little bit longer, and I didn't know how much I wanted to go down this road. It probably would have been more appropriate today. But a couple days ago, one of Mandami's new staff members wrote about basically murdering Jews and, supporting October 7th in Israel, and just very, disgusting type of language. Because again, innocent people died, right? And he goes, well, there's a variety of political viewpoints in my cabinet. You realize people have been run out of the Republican Party and other parties for much less. But yet here in the Democrat Party, you have an attorney general in Virginia that said that he wanted to kill his political opponent's kids, wife, and the text messages that got released.
Wow.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
We've reached this insanity, and it's in Minnesota is kind of our microcosm right now. They're under the microscope. Well, let me Yeah, let me play this. This is Brandon Gill. We're going to play Brandon Gill talking about the fraud in Minnesota and what they're trying to do from it at a federal level.
Well, this is a multi-billion-dollar fraud program that is still being uncovered. Now, estimates are estimating that it's about $9 billion of tax money that has been looted from you, the American taxpayer, that's been looted from the Treasury. I think that Congress has a role in ensuring that our welfare programs are not abused by left-wing governors like Governor Walz, who is using this to fund what is virtually a patronage system of taking Americans' hard-earned tax dollars and giving it to his political allies by turning a blind eye amidst widespread, rampant welfare fraud that he knew was going on. That's a huge problem. I think that this act is the first step in clamping down on welfare fraud. I think we have.
So they're going to try to clamp down from the federal side, and on the state side, they're this is what we're going to listen to two mayors in Minnesota that are just livid about this.
Minnesotans have been fleeced to the tune of $9 billion. This is done from fraud right out of the Minnesota Capitol in St. Paul, as well as the policies that are being championed and brought across the finish line by the legislature. Both the legislature and the governor are at fault for the fraud and the constant policies that are taxing Minnesotans.
You know, let's put up Minnesota's rank among key growth indicators. Very anemic and devastating growth numbers actually across the state that have happened under this governor. But Mayor Zupancic, let me ask you about something that Mike Emanuel reported at the end there. This question about whether or not the governor looked the other way on potentially $9 billion of fraud because he didn't want to point out that the majority of those who were accused and then convicted in these cases were from the Somali community. What do you say to that?
We're going to listen to what she says about that here. Oop, next clip.
Well, I don't understand what difference that makes to anyone else. How would anyone else be approached or confronted if they stole money from someone? They would all be acknowledged and have to go forward with the consequences of their actions. You know, we're sitting here bearing the brunt of everything: tax hikes, gas taxes, property taxes, boating taxes, gas taxes. We can't go anywhere. We can't go fishing. And he's afraid to offend someone. Well, what about me? I know my town, we're all offended that we're paying for all of this fraud to go on. And it's just coming out now when they've known about it for years. What's going to happen now? And let's just call it what it is. It's stealing. It's not, It's stealing. You're stealing from the state of Minnesota. You're stealing from the taxpayers that make this state the great state that it is. And how are we going to recoup from that?
It was obvious to the whole world that Tim Walz was a retard. He ran with Kamala Harris. It was pretty obvious. But more and more, he just looks like a complete retard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is so bad. I've really watched him and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? It's an unintelligent man that has certain points where he's got a high competency. He has a high empathy level. He has a high kind of a personal charisma. When you're with him, he's jovial and kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he makes great personal connections. Like if we met with him one-on-one, he'd be like, how can I help you? You know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But he's absolutely complicit and turned a blind eye to all of this fraud in this state because he didn't want to be the bad guy.
To me, it made him look like a puppet.
He didn't want to be the puppet. And so
but he
therefore
looks like
he
one.
put on the suit willingly. You know what I mean? It's like, he's like, well, if I can't beat him, I'll join him, kind of an attitude. It actually makes me think more and more of the Kamala Harris president itself. Remember, campaign. Remember, she didn't run a primary. Nobody voted for her to be the presidential candidate. She picked Tim Walz over Josh Shapiro, presumably because Josh was Jewish. But now I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, I think Kamala Harris and Tim Walz planned to take the country to the cleaners. You know what I mean? To be like, hold us upside down and shake us out for everything we had. Could you imagine what would happen if Tim Walz got a hold of the federal government's checkbook? You think Biden was bad? You think Obama was bad? Look at what Tim Walz is doing. You know, Obama never ran any budgets. I mean, whatever little budget he had, but Tim Walz knows how to be an executive. Like, he knows how to sign a bill and how to initiate it and stuff like that. Oh my goodness. This guy would have been doing open policies and bills with big, huge holes in it for you to drive Mack trucks of fraud through.
And it wouldn't be billions, it would be trillions.
Billions, not trillions. So here's an example on the ground. Again, the peasant's perspective. What does this look like on the ground? You're telling me there's money going to businesses that aren't really doing business as they say. You've got SNAP benefits running through little 150 square foot bodegas with no inventory to the tune of $1 million a year, right? You've got child care centers that are getting paid for kids, but here's one in Minnesota, an example of one of these. Look at this sign here. Quality Leering Center. Quality Leering Center.
Okay.
Here in Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. And if you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working. Midday. Children should be in here. And this place is licensed for 99 children. And this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing. And like I said, they literally spelt the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this. And this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population. It's sad that it's happening here in Minnesota, and it stinks that it's happening and it's being labeled on the Somali population. However, that's just the facts of what's happening here inside of Minnesota. $1.9 million for this daycare center that can't even spell learning right.
They
here
will
in
train
Minnesota,
you and milk you for everything you have when they realize that your empathy comes with an open paycheck. An open checkbook. This is a judge. This is from Mike Davis. This is one of the most lawless and dangerous orders yet. Biden, D.C. U.S. Judge Amir Hatim Mahdi Ali, the first Muslim and Arab D.C. judge, so he's in the D.C. circuit, ordered the president's aides to ignore his executive order revoking a security clearance. Something that you think the president would have complete and total autonomy over. Like you can't even challenge that. Judge Ali, who is still a foreign citizen from Egypt, previously ordered the president could not perform national security review of a $2 billion in foreign aid package.
Get bent.
Judge blocks attempt to strip security clearance from whistleblower lawyer Mark Zaid. Judge Amir Biden says the move may violate the Constitution's ban on bill of attainders. What? No connection. There you go. That's the face of it right there.
Oh, jeez.
So they're in the city gates, my friends. They're in the city gates. Do you know how the Soviet Union actually fell? How they actually kind of went out of business? It's because we beat them with missiles.
No, I think it had more to do with money.
Yeah, more to do with money. Like we outspent them, right? We outspent them and they tried to keep up. And then they had their Chernobyl incident and that drained all their resources. People don't understand how significant Chernobyl was for them. Right. They could go toe to toe with us, military technology, military spending until Chernobyl. Chernobyl, all of a sudden, they had to spend a ton of money to prevent a worldwide disaster. And they cognized it. Go watch the HBO series Chernobyl. It's revelatory. Okay. Really good series. That broke the bank. So then going forward, every tank America made, Russia was like, we can't really make a tank because we spent so much money in Chernobyl. So the only way out of that is to inflate, and it just fell apart, right? So that's how the Soviet Union was defeated. A chance happenstance with Chernobyl could have been, cheap electricity for their Soviet Union. Instead of it ended up being a black hole for money. And then turn around, couldn't keep up with us. Within years, half decade, Berlin falls. 1991, 1989, the Berlin Wall comes down. Massive constriction of the Soviet Union. Well, the United States just went through something like Chernobyl called COVID. We spent about the same amount of money on COVID as they did then. Right? I mean, we dumped money into the people. We dumped money into all these, too big to fail businesses. Now, this is on the backs of course, the 2008 financial crisis where we bailed out our businesses, which is why silver, by the way, hit $72 an ounce yesterday. Okay. And all these different things, right? We're seeing the money being printed away. Donald Trump's trying to stop that with tariffs, change the plan, but we printed the money anyways. So now we have a problem. we spend way too much on our military equipment, way too big of a cost on investment and time to make it. And our enemies know that. This is the, I can't remember his name, but his company here, he does.
Oh, yeah. This guy's future for military.
Yes, military defense contractor. Let's listen to what he says.
Look at how we beat the Soviet Union. It wasn't actually just with military power. It was actually primarily financially. We forced them to spend all their money trying to keep up with us militarily, and we bankrupted them. I'm concerned that we're on a path to the United States because our weapons are so expensive, so overpriced. We're spending millions of dollars per missile. We have aircraft carriers that cost many billions of dollars per aircraft carrier, and a lot of these weapon systems are things that can be destroyed by things that cost 1,000 times less, right? What happens to America if we literally can't afford using every dollar we have to produce more than a few weeks worth of wartime expenditure against China? If that happens, then we're a sitting duck. If China knows that we're going to run out of weapons after 2 weeks of warfare, which is what a lot of the war games predict, and if they know that we don't have the ability to restockpile that and to rebuild our arsenal, we're just a 2-week distraction at best in their aims of conquest. China has real ambitions of invading Japan. They want to take Japan. They want to take the Philippines. They even want to take Vietnam. I started Anduril because I wanted to build systems that were actually affordable enough that you could build them at a scale that would be relevant to modern warfare. I have a very different business model, by the way, for Anduril. Most defense contractors are paid on what's called a cost plus basis. They get paid for their time and their materials and then a fixed percentage of profit, which actually means they make more money when they go over budget and over schedule. That's why you hear about all these programs going on for years and years. That's how you end up with the F-35 program being $1 trillion. Jesus. $1 trillion. And what Anduril does is uses our own money to build a product, and then we sell it to the government. It's a radically new business model, but it gets to that point of like, are we going to get bled dry under our current model where we do cost plus? Like, absolutely. But Anduril is really about making sure that America doesn't bankrupt ourselves trying to protect our allies around the world.
I love
Look
that.
at how we beat the Soviet Union. It wasn't
on the shelf for the government to come buy like it's retail. Oh, you need a drone? We got 34 of them.
It's like Amazon.
It's like it's to deliver. Now, you know, I hope they stay patriotic Americans and that we don't get outbid. But he makes a really clear point there, right? We overspend on our military because of this majesty and might. And you need icebreakers. You need things like that for the Arctic and stuff.
Sure.
But Ukraine and Russia have taught us. Ukraine went toe to toe with Russia. Toe to toe. And how'd they do it? Drones, fiber optic cables, you know, hypersonic missiles, stuff that, you know, you can have the best radar in the world, but when you got a drone flying 15 feet above the ground, you ain't catching that. You know what I'm saying? If you've got a hypersonic missile that's flying at 100-foot elevation, your radars aren't picking that off. And that's one of the things. It's not small arms fire that's killing people. It's drones. It's literally grenades being held up by a drone and dropped on a guy that's trying to run for cover. Where do you run? We've seen the images of all the fiber optic. That's the future there. A little $1,000 drone could knock out a tank. And that's what they did, which is why it's not a tank war anymore like it was in the beginning, right? In the very beginning, what do they say? You always fight the last war.
Yeah.
Right. In the beginning, it was tank on tank. And we've really found out quickly that all the tanks Europe was producing and the Abrams tank, useless, useless, useless. They're made for the desert. They're not made for the mud. They're not made for the conditions that were there. They were way too easy. And worst of all, the supply chain. You couldn't fix them. You couldn't fix them. A little $1,000 drone would blow a track off. That tank's a piece of paperweight out in the yard. It's yard art now.
Well, it's worse than that. It blocks the road.
It blocks the road. Yeah. Now the Russians, I remember watching videos way back when the conflict started, and the Russians were like, listen, our tanks are like, you know, repairable. Like we can fix them in the field. And he's like, you know, their stuff is crap. All these expensive Leopold tanks and stuff like that. They don't have parts to fix them. And that's something we've talked about before too, about like little repair parts that are like 3D printed for $3, but they cost $30,000 and they want you to replace the whole assembly.
Well, they got to be mil spec.
Mil spec. Yeah. So anyways, Anduril here changing the way military contracting's done, which is a good thing. Because the way it is right now is so bloated and we are running for bankruptcy. You can't pay for the Somalis and new battleships. Like you got to take a pick. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It is scary where we're at when you just sit back and go, what are the trend lines telling me? Right? When you've got 60 cities now doing the Muslim thing, pretty soon that's 120, 400, 500. Next thing you know, everything east of the Mississippi, 5 times a day. Right, you got the prayer call. That, by the way, the prayer call, I never got comfortable with in prison. Never got comfortable with it. Never liked it. Didn't like it. Did not like it.
Yeah, I'm not going to be putting up with that.
Well, what do you do to stand against it?
I would just have to move.
To where?
I don't know. Space.
Northern Idaho, Greenland. Let's roll.
I'm with Elon. We're going to Mars.
We're going to Mars. I'm out of this place. These are tough questions.
Yeah.
Because where do you decide to take a stand? Right? You remember all those people that barked and barked when they took prayer out of schools and we're like, they're a little extreme. They want to pray. Well, now we're like the people that were like, get the Christians out of school. They're like, but for you guys, we'll pause it 5 times a day. What?
Yeah, no.
It makes it really, really difficult. Stand up when you can still stand.
The other thing about that politician is, can you please just speak English? You know, this is America, but speak English.
It'd be nice.
It'd be nice.
I sent one of our listeners, Mary, a clip where some guys are like, we got married because the government wants us to. It's too many. And he's like, and we're doing, have I played that clip? Oh my goodness, it's worth it. Give me just a minute. Okay, I'll find that clip. It's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Okay, but first we're going to listen to this about Act Blue. Donald Trump officially, I don't know how many times they officially have to decide to investigate Act Blue, but in just the midterms are just around the corner, maybe it's a good time.
Meanwhile, President Trump is directing the Justice Department to investigate Act Blue. This is a Democratic donation platform, and the focus as the allegations about illegal straw donors and foreign contributions. Mark Meredith is live in Washington with more. This has been brewing for a while, Mark. What do we need to know?
Dana, for years, you're right about this, but this is the big development. The White House is directing the Attorney General to investigate the Democratic Party's top fundraising platform. It's called Act Blue, and the president says he wants to know if foreign money is being donated to the group and then utilized to sway elections. Democrats are calling this probe a dangerous abuse of power. Act Blue is an enormous operation in Democratic politics. It's raised more than $16 billion since 2004. You may have seen the text pop up from candidates saying, please donate, go to the Act Blue website. Republicans use something similar called Win Red. There was a new memo signed on Thursday directing the Attorney General to investigate if foreign nationals are using the Act Blue platform to bypass campaign finance laws. Trump wants a report out in 6 months.
So we'll see. Here's my assumption with Act Blue. You have every foreign interest from Kair to you have every foreign interest that the Democrats do trades. Hey, funnel $1 billion into Act Blue so we can spread it around to everywhere we need to spread it. Any Democrat is eligible to get Act Blue, right? Put $1 billion in and we'll make sure that we have prayer 5 times a day.
Yeah, or we'll throw some money your way using USAID.
What I believe has happened, because I saw it in the prisons, Christianity is majorly downplayed. No Bible studies, no support for that, nothing. But if you're Muslim, like, have I told you about trying to get a Bible in prison? Have I told you my story about this? I couldn't get a Bible in prison. I requested a Bible. It was like the only thing I ever requested from the prison, ever. I want a Bible. Can't get one. Put in a request for a prayer mat. 30 minutes later, you got a prayer mat.
Wow.
Yep. Yep.
Huh.
It was crazy. Want a Quran? I can get one real quick. I want a Bible? Nope. Can't get, like, it's just not available. We can't find, they're floating around. Just find one.
That's weird.
They're coveted. It wasn't until I got into the J6 pod that I finally saw a Bible. And it was because, they had them sent in. I don't know if I can find this video. I sent it and I went to go pull it off the text and it says not available. Somebody was clearly offended, but it shouldn't be offensive. It was freaking hilarious. So I'm sure it still lives on the internet. I just don't know where. Mary, if you can find it, if you're listening, try to send that link. Drop it in the chat if you still have it in your text. Because when I pulled it up, it tried to disappear on me. Anyways, it's really funny. Okay, when we get to it, it'll be funny. Because everything's funny. Okay, this next thing too is Trump's making some significant plays here, right? As it affects us on the ground. For example, every time I get on the road, I drive by semi-trucks.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement have arrested 101 illegal alien semi-truck drivers and seized their commercial driver's licenses in a California operation called Operation Highway Sentinel. Most of the arrests took place on highways and ports throughout the state. Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom has rejected the Trump administration's effort to arrest illegal migrant truck drivers. Immigration and Customs Enforcement have arrested 101 illegal alien
the number is
semi-truck.
in the thousands now of people they've taken away driver's licenses across the country, and they're doing these little targeted campaigns, right? Like they parked out in Colorado on the interstate and stopped everybody, and they grabbed like 150 people in one day. And then in California, they've got 100. Line up all these semi trucks and all these drivers.
So kind of like an emphasis patrol for drunks.
Yeah, except we're testing their English competency and their citizenship status and stuff like that. All right, what do we got here? Gold? Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's see. Did you know the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often? Our increased longevity in America means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not suffice. If you have over 100,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Text SAFE to 35052 today.
Yes.
All right.
In our private chat, we're going to be going over what's going on with silver, because obviously gold is on the rise, but silver is meteoric. And there are fundamental real world reasons why that's happening. And they blew past the $70 price floor and maintained it. So, a lot of times you see a peak and a sell-off. There's no sell-off happening right now in silver. And the reason is because physical delivery. So we're going to be hearing about that in private. G. Parazer says, and when books or magazines were sent, they only half actually got to you. That is true. I got quite a few books that never got delivered to me. And I knew they were in the facility. Like we had confirmed delivery. And I would get little notes saying, this contains extreme info. Like somebody said us some kind of, I don't know. We'd get these notices saying we weren't allowed to get books, because of what they contained. And we'd like send in a market.
You're going to get radicalized.
Yeah, you won't send it like stuff like that. 40-year-old Holocaust survivor says, good morning. And I want to know how you survived it at 40. Yeah. Pray the Rosary Daily. Okay, Ron, can you grab that link?
Let me try. Yes.
Can you play from your end?
I don't know.
How do we do this? You can drop it to me in Telegram. That'll work. Yeah. We have a cool little communication thing called Telegram. By the way, those of you that join us every single day in the chats, if you reach out to me privately, and most of you, if you know me, you know how to get a hold of me, I will add you to the living room where we have great discussions. Okay, so this is the clip here. Again, very funny.
Okay.
See, this is what was happening to me.
Uh-oh.
They took it away. They hid it from us. It was too good. Can I make it play in here? It won't let me play it.
Bummer. All right.
It was too spot on. It was too spot on. Okay. It was too good to stay on X of all places. Okay, this is Representative Burkhardt talking to Matt Gaetz, and he is saying, listen, we're just a series of votes away from totally losing the country. And you've got to understand the momentum of what has been done from the left and the infiltration and invasion of the country with illegal immigration, the adoption of Islam in our institutions and things like that. These are trends that are, if we don't cap them and stop them and reverse them, they will
break the country,
encompass us, right? We will wake up one day in a place like Silverdale, Washington going, I thought nobody here went to church. Why is there prayer calls 5 times?
How would you answer this kind of simple question? Like, what will a return of a Republican majority in the Congress do to improve people's lives in 2027 and 2028?
I would hope some economic common sense would take place. I would hope some reduction in spending. I would hope that the reduction in bureaucracy and freeing up our energy and making us less reliant on foreign groups and building it here in this country. And I would hope that the tariffs would eventually take hold that could help us. The bill I actually proposed another bill that the money that we would gain from the tariffs would be supplied to Americans via not a $2,000 check to everybody, but just a reduction in your taxes, because the people that pay taxes should get something back. The people that aren't working, that aren't paying taxes, don't deserve anything like that. So I would hope that we could embrace some of those things. I had a real heart-to-heart with the speaker right before we left, and I said, this is for everything. This isn't just you being speaker, this is for the future of our country. Reagan said we're one generation away. Matt, we're one vote series away from losing our country.
Yeah, so far gone is the one generation away. I've heard boomers quote that many times. I myself have quoted it. And guess what? We're one generation. They didn't stop it. They didn't reverse the trend. This is Matt Gaetz talking on Tucker Carlson about his expectations.
What's going to happen in the next 2 election cycles?
I think we are headed for a bloodbath in the midterms for a few reasons, primarily history. The president's party loses seats during the midterms. I don't think I'm breaking any news there. And I think that the other side's just really worked up, and they have an organizing principle. The organizing principle of the left in America today is we hate Trump, and they don't really need any more than that. And there's something elegant politically about using that to activate voters.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas we're trying to tell people.
And who are these voters? The ivory tower voters. The people that their empathy has been weaponized, the people that we're a nation of immigrants and we live on stolen land. It's the people of, Christians are a majority, so we can totally persecute them, but let's open the doors to Islam. Those are the voters. The organizing thing is whatever Trump is, we don't like it. We're not going to look at the policies. We're not going to look at the results. We're not going to look at the GDP. We're not going to look at the debt. We're not going to look at anything. We just don't like the orange man.
To reward us for securing the border. And voting is rarely an exercise in rewarding prior conduct. It is always about new promises. What are the new promises you're making? And right now, a lot of people have economic anxiety around the cost of living. I think the Democrats, again, have an elegant presentation to make, which is we're going to take the things that cost you a lot of money and have the government provide those to you. And then those things won't cost you a lot of money. And we try to make an argument about economic theory that doesn't always land with the same poignance.
So midterms in a year, very tough.
Yeah, I think Hakeem Jeffries becomes the speaker. I think that they will then, because the problem is the candy becomes the poison for them, because when they do this big elect us so that we can use all these tools to fight Trump, then once they get that power, they're going to be pressed to continually use the silliest ones. And think about what they've already used. They've already used like the attempted application of criminal law that backfired. They already used the impeachment process that backfired. And so what I think Democrats believe, or what they've recently been conditioned to believe, is that shutdowns are good for them under Trump, that's good politics. So my prediction is Democrats win the midterms. They execute a series of ransom-like shutdowns on Trump. The country gets weary of that and probably elects J.D. Vance president in 2028.
What's the
hopefully we get him
2028
on our side.
I mean, I'm just assuming that there will be, Ted.
So he goes on to explain, Ted Cruz, and he believes Steve Bannon is going to run for president.
What?
And that Steve Bannon will run on Elizabeth Warren package, take from the rich and give to the poor.
Oh,
which will, and we're not talking the $5 million rich, we're talking the uber wealthy rich, right? Which Steve Bannon talks about on his show regularly. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that, because giveaways produce votes. Now, something that did happen yesterday, which is really significant, was EU went ahead with a fine against both Apple and X. For EU, Italy did the one against Apple, and I think Britain did the one against X. And so the State Department is getting involved here, and they're saying, listen, we have to support freedom of speech. This is a marked difference from state departments of the past who actually had ministries of truth buried inside of them that were censoring Americans.
I'll add one more thing on the Online Safety Act, and I emphasized this earlier, but I want to say it again. It's misguided and unfortunate to apply that law in Britain, but applying that law extraterritorially, which means applying it to speech that has nothing to do with Britain, does not occur in Britain, is on American platforms by American users on American political issues, purporting to censor Americans in America is a deal breaker. It is a non-starter. It is a red line. And that's what Ofcom has tried to do with the Online Safety Act. And that's one reason the American government is concerned.
Okay, but will your government then take legal action against Ofcom if they try and overreach in the way you've described?
Well, there's already formal action proposed. There is a...
Okay, so she's talking about a bill called the Granite Bill, which will help shore up the the government's ability to basically stop other countries from censoring speech inside the United States. And yesterday, Marco Rubio went through with one of these things that they could do. Rubio imposes visa restrictions on European officials who attempted to censor American free speech. The Trump administration will no longer tolerate these egregious acts of external censorship, Rubio posted on X. Today, the State Department will take steps to bar leading figures of the global censorship industrial complex from entering the United States. We stand ready, willing, and to expand this list to others if they do not reverse course. So they censored 5 bureaucrats in England, who I think there's one or a couple names that have been released from basically entering the United States. This is a big deal because these bureaucrats aren't like low-level people. These are policymakers. This is the first time in my life that I've seen a sanction against someone that was, quote, non-criminal in one of these countries.
Makes it so they can't really do their job.
Well, it's not economic sanctions. It's just passport sanctions. They can't come to America, but it's a huge shot across the bow.
But how do you visit America to work on policy if you can't get there? So that
it's a problem. It's a problem for them. Speaking of free giveaways, this is Trump's plan for health insurance. The only health care I will support or approve is sending the money directly back to the people, with nothing going to the big, fat, rich insurance companies who have made trillions and ripped off America long enough. The people will be allowed to negotiate and buy their own much better insurance. Power to the people. Congress, do not waste your time and energy on anything else. This is the only way to have great health care in America. Get it done now, President DJT.
And remember, you're only supposed to like pay attention to the capitalized part.
Get it done now, right? All of it. So this is pretty significant, right? This kind of splits the baby. We want free healthcare or affordable healthcare that we can universally afford. But when you pay the insurance companies and there's no connection to services, they just charge whatever they want and the government writes the check. That's why we've seen insurance premiums go up, coverage change, denying service for expensive care. But, you know, you can have all of the Crisco you want through subsidies and things like that, and which we're going to talk about here in a second. And so Trump's saying, no, give it to the people. Just give everybody $1,000 check a month and let them go buy insurance. And then that becomes the ceiling. Nobody wants to spend over what the government pays them to buy insurance, and it forces the insurance companies to compete. It's a big deal. This is how capitalism keeps that market in check. Should have always been this way. Should have always been this way. We should have never paid direct to insurance companies.
Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama. Now, the reason we paid insurance companies direct is because they did the same thing that has happened time and time again in a system like ours.
They lied.
And people with money can manipulate things in such a way that they get it to be accepted. So, for example, this is coming from Samantha Hull, or Sama Hull, 1907, electric lights replace candles. Wow, that's so good for America, right? But Procter & Gamble's candle business collapses. They had a pretty big candle business because that was how people lit their homes. They pivot to soap, but animal fats are expensive. They need cheaper alternatives. Enter cottonseed oil. Cotton seeds contain oil, but it's toxic to humans. Gosipol, a natural pesticide. The seeds are agricultural waste, fed to cattle in small amounts or discarded. But chemically extract the oil, heat to extreme temperatures, hydrogenate it with pressurized hydrogen gas, and you get a solid white fat that looks like lard. Crisco costs pennies. The patent in 1907 launched Crisco 1911. Crystallized cottonseed oil, industrial waste transformed into a soap substitute. Except they don't market it as soap. They market it as food. The problem, nobody wants to eat textile manufacturing waste processed with industrial chemicals. Your grandmother cooks with lard and tallow like humans have for thousands of years. I don't even know where to buy tallow and lard. Solution, convince Americans that animal fats are killing them. Procter & Gamble spends millions on marketing, cookbooks, radio shows, free samples. They target Jewish communities, advertising Crisco as kosher, neither meat nor dairy. But the genius move, 1948, the American Heart Association has $1,700 in their budget. Procter & Gamble donates $1.7 million. Study the AHA has funding and influence. Suddenly the AHA has funding and influence. And suddenly they're interested in dietary causes of heart disease. 1961, the AAH, American Heart Association, issues the first dietary guidelines. Avoid saturated fat from animals. Replace with vegetable oils. Recommends oils, Crisco, Wesson, and other seed oils. Who benefits? Procter & Gamble. Who funded the ACH? Procter & Gamble. The conflict is blatant. Nobody cares. Never mind that humans ate animal fats for millions of years without epidemic heart disease. Never mind that seed oils oxidize rapidly and integrate into cell membranes, creating inflammation for years. I grew up believing heart disease was the #1 cause of death in America. And it was. Okay. And it was.
I did just recently buy some tallow because I like to cook with that. And damn, is it expensive.
Yeah. Industrial cottonseed waste is now heart healthy and butter is artery clogging poison. 1980s, trans fats are discovered to be catastrophically unhealthy. They directly cause heart disease. Procter & Gamble's response, quietly reformulate, keep selling seed oils, never acknowledged their heart healthy product, spent nearly 70 years actively causing disease. No apologies, no compensation, just free formulate and continue. Modern research showed seed oils cause oxidative stress, inflammatory cascades, mitochondrial dysfunction, increased cancer risk, and neurodegenerative diseases. Your body requires exactly 0 grams of cottonseed oil. They didn't exist in human diets until 1911. But Procter & Gamble needed to sell soap alternatives and accidentally created the largest dietary change in human history. We traded animal fats, but that built civilizations, factory waste that causes disease. The soap company won. Crisco frying gives nature's delicious food flavors unchanged, no smoke, no odor. Strain Crisco, use it again and again. For frying, for shortening, for cake making.
Man. Next, we should play a cigarette ad.
I say we stop sending money to Somalia and start sending Crisco. One of the things that happened yesterday, someone's calling me from Bainbridge, Georgia. I wonder who that could be. One of the things that happened yesterday is there was a court ruling against Trump with regards to sending the National Guard to Illinois. And what it says in here, let's just read a couple parts here. At this preliminary stage, the government has failed to identify a source of authority that would allow the military to execute the laws in Illinois. The president has not invoked a statute that provides the exception to the Posse Comitatus Act. Instead, he relies on inherently constitutional authority that, according to the government, allows him to use the military to protect federal personnel and property. But the government also claims, consistent with longstanding view of the executive branch, that performing such protective functions does not constitute, quote, executing the laws within the means of the Posse Comitatus Act. So then in the dissent, so basically they, I guess Kavanaugh concurred with the judgment. So basically they said you can't just go use the National Guard to go in and enforce the law unless you declare an insurrection. One apparent ramification of the court's opinion is that it could cause the president to use the U.S. military more than the National Guard to protect federal personnel and property in the United States. So what this Supreme Court decision did is it set up the Insurrection Act. Clandestine, who makes some great posts, says, holy beep, I think it's actually happening. I am reading through the Supreme Court ruling in Trump versus Illinois, and they ruled that Trump needs to invoke the Insurrection Act in order to send troops into Chicago. Kavanaugh, in his dissent, says that his ruling could cause the president to use the military more than the National Guard. The Supreme Court just admitted that Trump has the authority to invoke the Insurrection Act to bypass Posse Comitatus and send troops to Chicago and any other city he wants. Trump tried to exhaust every legal avenue possible before resulting to the Insurrection Act, but the Dems resisted and refused to cooperate. Sounds to me like Trump just got the green light, invoke the Insurrection Act. When we talk about the Rubicon that Trump has to cross, the Insurrection Act is one of those Rubicons. Once he invokes the Insurrection Act, and other presidents have, bad things happen who are on the other side of that Insurrection Act. Okay, because it's an unfettered authority. There's an insurrection, the government is given unchecked power to put it down.
George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Grover Cleveland, George Bush, and others all used the armed forces to keep domestic order and peace. Many of our leaders used the military to keep peace. Now they like to say, oh, you're not allowed to use the military. And you know what the people say? The people in those cities where they're being raped and shot and beat up, you know what they say? We love the military. You ever see where they interview the people on the street? I've never seen somebody say they don't, unless they're radical and paid off, because a lot of these insurrectionists are paid by, whether it's Soros or other people, but they're paid by the radical left. So today I want to thank every service member from general to private who has bravely helped secure the nation's capital and make America safe for the American people. It's amazing. The whole world is watching. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Grover Cleveland.
So if he has to use the Insurrection Act, he will. Other presidents have. And it starts to get bad because then bad in someone's perspective, right? It starts to get bad because, Ron, what constitutes an insurrection? Could fraud against the United States government that is so rampant and so large that it threatens the economic and financial stability of entire states, could that be considered an insurrection?
I would say yes.
I would say yes, right? There's a lot of things. Here's James O'Keefe talking about an active insurrection that he uncovered. And he says if they don't get looking into it and get criminal indictments, he's going to start investigating the prosecutors.
I think the big story of the year for us was exposing the government subcontracting DEI fraud. And I wore that ridiculous wig, and I met with these people that were getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the Treasury and SBA, and they told me that none of the money goes to minorities. It just goes to line their pockets.
Well, that sounds like an insurrection. I mean, you're overthrowing the government by wasting our money. Are you not? Is our government not intricately tied with its financial center?
Well, it's wasting money on a level that it affects GDP of the country.
It affects our price of eggs.
Yeah.
So even if you support these DEI, even if you think, oh, it should go to the Native Americans, it doesn't go to the Native Americans. We went to California and interviewed the Native Americans, and they want all these people to go to jail.
There's only so much we can do as journalists.
Yes.
We can expose it all day long, but if nothing gets done, what are we doing?
It actually might undermine the credibility of your journalism if nothing happens. So I think it's important for us to try to hold the people to account that hold them accountable. My vision for 2026 is we need arrests. We need people to go to prison if they break. By the way, I would go to prison if I did this. So the year in review next year, our work will lead to arrests. And if it doesn't lead to arrests, I'm going to investigate the prosecutors themselves.
Yeah. So if they don't fix the system, could Trump use the Insurrection Act to go after that? It's a big fat open door. A random independent says, how are you all slurping on Trump this fine Christmas Eve? And Ron responds, giant icy levels of slurping. Thank you very much. Yeah, a random patriot. We are slurping on Trump for sure. In fact, slurping so much that I'm even going to play this clip just for you. Did you know Rudy Giuliani back in 2020 was right about everything?
Just want to say one thing. Andrew Giuliani, so his father is Rudy, the greatest mayor in the history of New York, I think by far. He took a ravaged city, a city that was really under siege. Probably most people thought it was going to survive. He turned it around. He was a great, great mayor. And then they treated him very, very unfairly. You go back and tell your father all of the things that have come out over the last couple of months through Tulsi and through all of the people, Cash, everybody. They've proven your father 100% correct. His father was treated so unfairly. Your father has been 100% correct, and tell him we all love him. Okay? Thank you, Mr. President. He's an amazing. What he had to go through was very, very unfair, nasty. These are bad people.
Yeah. And, you know, he's talking about all the 2020 election stuff. Rudy Giuliani has been proved to be right time and time and time again on that stuff. I remember when I was arrested, Sedition Hunters posted, you know, our ire doesn't go to me. He's a good man, family man, but he was I can't remember the use they were, deceived by Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and Trump and his associates. To them, we direct our ire. Well, you bankrupted Rudy Giuliani. Ruby Freeman, who herself was a part of this fraud and then was scared that the Democrats were going to throw her under the bus, she ended up getting a Congressional Medal of Freedom, along with some J6 people, the Capitol Hill police that were bad dues bears, right? He was right about everything. When's the vindication? Was that not an insurrection? They accused me of insurrection, so I know that they know what the word means, right? I know that that's what they were trying to paint me with. So what happens there? How about our secretaries of state who manipulate the election systems? Could that be considered an insurrection?
Why are Michigan's voter rolls so bloated? Going into the 2024 election, Michigan had 500,000 more registered voters than we have voting age adults. Michigan is a slow or no growth state of 10 million people. So how Jocelyn Benson find 750,000 new voters just between July and October? Shout out to Anna Hoffman for that report, by the way. Well, she's done it before. This might be a case of history repeating. You remember ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, officially states joined ERIC to compare their voter rolls and eliminate duplicates. In reality, ERIC finds eligible but unregistered adults in each state, and member states are required to reach out to them. We've sent Jocelyn Benson FOIAs for the eligible but unregistered reports that ERIC sent to Michigan. Despite calling herself the transparency candidate, Benson has denied them. In September 2020, using ERIC data, Benson sent postcards to 700,000 eligible but unregistered adults in Michigan. That was almost 10% of the vote tally in a high turnout election. In 4 months of 2025, Benson has added almost 10% of new people to our already fat voter roll. Michigan is shrinking, but Jocelyn Benson's voter rolls keep growing. Maybe she should have led the population study. The purpose of a system is what it does. ERIC doesn't trim voter rolls, it helps inflate them. Until the ecosystem for voter fraud is killed off, the potential for stuffed ballot boxes will hang over the Michigan governor's race like a dark cloud.
So they opened the door to the Insurrection Act, because how is that not an insurrection? Right? Random Independent says LMAO, right about everything, but somehow loses 60 plus court cases. The level of delusion and slurping is pathetic. Well, a Random Independent, you apparently trust the government and you trust these judges. And I don't, because I've seen how they act. I've seen them in person. I've watched them shit their pants on the stand in a diaper, my judge. Okay. I've watched them need help out of their walking chairs, and all those 60 plus cases you're talking about, they were all dismissed on principles of laches and standing, which means no evidence was actually looked at, which is part of the problem in all of this. So I appreciate the feedback, but you're wrong. Okay. And I put my word where my mouth is. I went to prison over and I wouldn't back down. And I would have. You know how easy it would have been to do to take a plea deal and trim a few years off my sentence? You know how easy it would have been to go to a nicer prison instead of a max security admin facility because I bent the knee and said, yeah, you're right, Giuliani's scumbag. I don't care about Rudy Giuliani and his freaking black, hair dye running out his face in a press conference. But he was right. That's the problem. He was correct. Okay. Was there a good strategy to do it? Running all over the country, holding press conferences with Jenna Ellis? No. Right. Was that a good strategy? No. But you had a judicial coup. You really did. Look at Bukele down in El Salvador and what he says. If you don't impeach the corrupt judges, they will form a judicial cartel. Look at what Judge Boasberg is doing. Look at that Judge Emile right here. You can't deny someone's secret security clearance. The president of the United States has exclusive classification and security clearance power, right? If he can't revoke a security clearance, who can? All right. It is time for us to jump over into private, and we are going to be talking a little bit about Epstein, something really funny about Epstein. So they released all these blacked out documents, but they just put a black box over the PDF. So people are just going and cut and pasting the text and putting it in a Word document, and you have all of the redactions. So slowly but surely, people are posting the redactions. Some of them are absolutely horrendous, the stuff they blacked out. I mean, we're talking like descriptions of abuse and stuff like that, names, associates, where money went. We're going to look at one in private chat today, which just, again, goes to show how bad the system is. We're going to be talking about silver. We're going to be hearing from one of my friends from prison, Maccabees. We're going to be hearing from his wife, Sarah Maccabee. She was on GB News talking about January 6th and kind of how it's been working out for the defendants. But before we do that, we're going to leave with something that is actually pretty good news. It's something we can work with when we're talking about our civilization. Okay. And that is that our civilization is not yet lost, but it's weak. The church is weak. So we're going to hear from Richard Barris. Every year he does a Christmas poll to find out just how much of America are actually believers. So before we jump over into private, we'll listen to this.
A couple days before Christmas, a lot of people, there were impossias, but a lot of people kind of punch out the news and are doing things closer to home. But you've always got your Christmas poll. You're revealing it now. Can you walk us through it, sir?
A little late this year, Steve. It's usually about a week earlier, but things, the calendar calls, right? But every year we ask a series of questions. Number one, do you celebrate Christmas? And then various ways that people do. We even asked what their favorite, Christmas color scheme is. The classic red and green, right? The red and white candy cane, which is all really fun. But I think the highlight from this poll is that this year, well, first of all, 92% of the country still celebrates Christmas, which is incredible. But when this year we decided, we always had this question which asked people whether or not how religious do you celebrate Christmas? Is it a strongly religious component for you, somewhat religious, not really religious? And this year we wanted to expand on that. And so we asked straight up about belief in God. And that's not just to everyone who said, yes, they celebrate Christmas. That's everybody. And belief in God, about 8 in 10 Americans believe in God. As a testament to this being a Christian nation, 93% of them believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, which is something else that we asked, which I just thought is huge. Somebody's got to point blank ask this. We'll ask about the resurrection when we get around to Easter, but we really wanted to ask that point blank to people, and that number was massive. Of the 10%, Steve, another big one, of the 10% who told us that they were unsure about whether they believed in God, because our results show that this unbelief or the rise of the nuns is probably exaggerated. It's more like we have a bunch of spiritual or would-be spiritual people who want to believe in God wandering around in the wilderness because church leaders are too busy, shilling for their favorite foreign policy or whatever it is. But we were told by these people that the reason why they said unsure is that they think that God probably or likely exists. 60% of them said that. And that they just have doubts. So you have this massive number of people that we just consider to be unbelievers, really not unbelievers. They're celebrating Christmas. They want to believe. They just have doubts. They have questions and they don't know. And I honestly think every year the Christmas poll, it's great, it's fun, but it does highlight that the church has some real problems. And this year, when we prodded a little bit more, now we know why. People are not answering their questions. Only about 40% of those who said they were unsure said that it's likely in their minds, maybe God doesn't exist, but they still even doubt that. Nobody, almost none of the people who said they're unsure say that, God just doesn't exist. That's amazing to me. Think about that. I mean, I want to interrupt you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I want to go back and just make sure we got nomenclature right. When you say nuns, that's NONES. That's people that don't pick an affiliated religion at all, whether it's Hindu, Muslim, or Christian, and then don't define it from there. So walk me back through that math again, and particularly how's it trended over time? You do this every year. You kind of take the temperature of the American people during one of our holiest seasons. How has this trended over time, and how because everybody, Time Magazine, they all talk about nuns and people are not affiliated. How has that trended over time?
So the rise of the nuns, as they always like to call it, has flatlined and somewhat reversed. And we measure this year over year, like you said, and every year it appears to be marginal, but those nuns have fallen from a high of 24% to now around 18%. So it's on the decline. It's just that these people don't know where to go. That's what it comes down to. They don't know where to go. So they don't know who to ask. They don't know where to pray. They don't know where to go observe. They just, they feel like they have no idea, and they have a deep.
In a world where we took prayer out of schools, where we've marginalized the voice of the church, no wonder people don't know where to go. Okay. It's interesting how that works out. They're still believers. We're still a Christian nation. People still believe. They just don't hear any voice. There's no shepherds that are really calling.
Deep distrust of church institutions. There have been, various scandals over the years that have hurt religious identification pretty badly. All of the research shows that, but it doesn't mean they don't want to believe, and it doesn't mean there's this incredible explosion of secularism. There was once upon a time. Now that has reversed. In as far as just the number of people who celebrate Christmas, the number who said they have no religious affiliation but celebrate this year is actually up about 4 points from last year, which, these things don't happen in huge blocks, but we do watch the trends. And I think this, again, the highlight of this poll every year is that I think church leaders need to remind themselves what their primary focus is. Steve, if you're a Christian like you or I am, right? you believe in the eternity of the soul, and you believe in salvation, especially if you're a believer in Christ. And if any of these respondents said, yes, I believe that Jesus was the Son of God, then you have a duty to go out and get those people and save them, right? I mean, that's what this is all about. And not every person takes it as seriously as maybe they should if they're Christians. But you know who should every day? Church leadership. And they're too busy at this event, talking to this lobbying group. They're all over the place. Let's get real. They're all over the place. Well, they need to refocus on what their primary mission is: save souls.
I think that is one of the big challenges, and I've seen this in my own church, is the emphasis went away from saving souls and it went away to preserving the institution. And they do that through censorship. They do that through whitewashing historical events. They do that through changing morality standards. That's another thing I've seen in my life, right? And obviously I came from a kind of a high demand religion, which you still go to, which is fine, right? But there is an element of and one of the big things that I found was the plot got lost, right? Like I thought this was about truth. And when you're lying to me and it's an objective lie, then I start to question the truth of salvation because you're lying to me about a simple historical event. There's no need to lie about it. You can just chalk it up to human frailty. But when the church endorses the lie now, and the church is saying, hey, I've got the authority to provide some method to salvation, it becomes an irreconcilable difference. And I think a lot of people see that. They see corruption in the Catholic Church and they see the scandals that happen there, but the Catholic Church claims authority and to stand in between God and the people, right? So it is one of those things where there's lots of really well-intentioned churches. Speak louder, man. I'm like all for it. Go save souls, but keep that as the emphasis, right? Change people's moral compass. Okay, we're going to get ready to go into private, and to do that, but before we do it, for those of you that aren't going to be joining us over in private on premium only, we're going to send you off into a raid, and we're sending you somewhere fun today. It's Conspiracy TV, okay? Carlito, you're going to love it, okay? You're going to be over here. They're talking about aliens and space. I'm watching a little bit of it right now. Look at what they got going on over here. They've got mushroom clouds, nuclear explosions, right up our alley, okay? So go join the raid here. We're going to send you guys over. We'll wait a couple minutes here. Yes, Birkenbein, please remember to click, like, subscribe, and repost. Please, please, please. We would love that. Helps us the show grow. Go ahead, send them on over, Ron. Initiate raid.
Oh, I got to hit the other button when it comes.
Raid incoming. I'm just letting them know. Did you do it?
I did.
Did it not go?
No, not sure.
I remember years ago when we were going through all this news, you're like, oh, I thought this was a conspiracy show. And I was like, this is a news show.
Well, it didn't work. So
sometimes the truth is stranger than it's raid and then /.
Oh, there. That's why I got it wrong. Phew.
All right. Head on over, ladies and gentlemen. Wait, what happened?
I don't know. It didn't work again.
Do these guys have like raids turned off? It is possible.
Well, maybe that's not going to work.
Maybe you just do it to Rumble?
Well, I did.
Huh. Well, I can find another one, I guess. Shouldn't be /first.
Failed to start.
Oh, no. Carlitos went over there. He made it.
Oh.
You've been raided, Carlitos.
Okay.
Is over there. You've been raided. Hello, Carlitos. You see the satellite image there just real quick a second ago? Totally fake, right? I love hearing Carlitos and his flat earth. He's adamant. And, he's been in a helicopter. He's been a lot higher than I have. So I've seen things I haven't seen. Carlitos says it worked. We got him. We got him. All right. Okay, Conspiracy TV over there. I can see their viewership poking up just a little bit.
Cool.
At least Carlitos made it over. Awesome. Okay, guys, we are going to jump over into private. Please hang on. If you're not able to follow us into premium, go ahead and hang out over there for a few minutes. I'll be monitoring the chats and jumping in with you guys. And yep, Birkenbein, I can see you over there. Raid, hello. Our lovely Peasants perspective listeners love a good conspiracy truth show.
It's flat for 40,000 feet too.
I'm gonna have to spell check some of these words I typed. It's pretty bad. How fun. So there we are. Yes, you guys made it over there. We've bumped up their viewership. That was fun. It's funny, this morning I got a notice about our friend on the cooking show yesterday because I subscribed. So always encourage them to, you guys hit follow for them and encourage them to hit follow for us. Okay, guys, we're going to jump on over into private now, and we'll talk to you guys. I'll have something for you guys tomorrow on Christmas. So I don't know how we'll do it, but we'll have something for you on Christmas tomorrow. All right. See you in a minute.